So we had a great time with our friends at the Post-Duopoly show last night, where we talked a bit about Ryan Routh, who is the Trump shooting suspect. Our friend Max Blumenthal wrote a piece over at the Gray Zone. Alleged would-be Trump assassin recruited for Ukraine's International Legion. So before he was caught with an AK-47 on a golf course near Trump, Ryan Routh went to Kiev to fight for Ukraine's military and recruit for its International Legion. Routh told U.S. media he had partners meeting with Ukraine's Ministry of Defense every week. So Max writes, Ryan Routh was arrested today with an AK-47 style rifle several hundred yards from Donald Trump while the former president was golfing. According to the Washington Post, the Trump golf course incident investigated as a potential assassination attempt. Back in 2022, Routh reportedly traveled to Ukraine to recruit for the International Legion. According to Newsweek Romania, which interviewed Routh in 2022, the American resident of Hawaii hoped to fight as a volunteer alongside the Ukrainian army, but was too old at age 56. Well, shame he didn't just reapply. Could have saved himself a lot of trouble because they'd take him now, I'm sure. So plan B, Routh said, was to come to Kiev and promote the idea of many others coming to join the International Legion. We need thousands of people here to fight alongside Ukrainians. There are about 190 countries on our planet, and if the governments are not officially sending soldiers here, then we civilians should pick up this torch and make it happen. Routh's Twitter timeline is filled with scores of tweets volunteering his direct assistance to the war in Ukraine, cheerleading the war against Russia, and attacking opponents of military aid to Kiev, such as Tulsi Gabbard. I'm willing to fly to Krakow and go to the border.
Well, they just have to change the name of Ukraine to Israel to get Gabbard on board.
Yeah, she'll go over there then. Yeah, exactly. That's their fault. I am willing to fly to Krakow and go to the border of Ukraine to volunteer and fight and die. Will I be able to cross the border to fight without a visa? Every citizen around the globe should be running to Ukraine to fight. Can I be the example? We must win. That's a tweet embedded in the article. Semaphore described Routh as the head of the International Volunteer Center in Ukraine. He complained to the outlet that Ukraine's government was less than enthusiastic about the droves of volunteers flocking to Kiev. I have had partners meeting with Ukraine's Ministry of Defense every week and still have not been able to get them to agree to issue one single visa. Routh also appeared in a March 25th, 2023 New York Times feature about the U.S. volunteers in Ukraine who lie waste and bicker. Among those featured alongside the North Carolina volunteer was Malcolm Nance. That's funny. So even this Ukraine zealot has shit to throw at Malcolm Nance, a star MSNBC commentator who falsely told audiences he had enlisted for frontline combat against Russian soldiers when, in fact, he spent his time tweeting from a Lviv hotel room. According to the Times, Routh planned...
They call him the Jussie Smollett of Ukraine.
Yeah, of Ukraine, that's right. Yes. According to the Times, Routh planned to move volunteers, in some cases illegally, from Pakistan and Iran to Ukraine. He said dozens had expressed interest. We can probably purchase some passports through Pakistan since it's such a corrupt country, the shady globetrotter told the paper in an interview from Washington, D.C.
Where did he get the money for this?
Well, this is what's so bizarre. I mean, it's very, very strange.
How's he traveling around like that?
This is, I mean, yeah, I like all these questions point to collaboration with some agency, right? Because, yeah, how is he doing all this? How is he doing all this? He seems to be quite poor, according to recent reports. So how are you even living in Hawaii? I mean, Hawaii is the most expensive state in the country to live in. And yeah, going all over the place like this. As Alex Rubinstein reported for the Gray Zone, the International Legion, also known as the Georgian Legion, has become a haven for assorted mercenaries, kooks, fascist activists, and even wanted murderers. The Legion is led by Mamuka Malalshavli, sorry, Max, if I butchered that, a Georgian warlord implicated in numerous war crimes.
So it's like the French Foreign Legion, basically.
Yeah. NAFO, the online pro-Ukraine trolling collective, has raised millions for the Legion. Following news of Routh's arrest, NAFO members worked to disassociate themselves from the accused would-be assassin. Routh's apparent assassination attempt took place at a zenith of proxy war hysteria, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky demanding the Biden administration grant him long-range weapons and green light strikes deep inside Russian territory, which we covered in our previous segment. A column published from Kyiv this September 14th, Fareed Zakaria, a close ally of the Biden administration, highlighted the panic that has gripped proxy warriors over a potential Trump victory. According to Zakaria, the delay in American aid during the past year, caused by infighting among stubborn Republicans in Congress, has contributed to the deterioration of the situation on the ground, and many now fear what will happen if Trump wins in November. So we're going to play just a little piece of video. This is not long, where you hear the passion in this guy's voice for Ukraine firsthand.
When you talk to a 20-year-old guy that sold everything he owns to come here to fight, that is heroism. You know, he's coming here to risk his life for humanity, for the Ukrainians. You know, guys that sell everything they own to come here and support the Ukrainians while others sit at home and do nothing. You know, it's totally mind-blowing how we have this divide of people that are selfless and courageous and wonderful and willing to sell everything they own to come here and support, keep people from getting killed, to shelter kids and protect Ukrainians, and others that just, want to sit at home and not. It's just, it's an indictment of our entire human society to say, hey, where do we stand? Do we stand for good? Or do we just not care? I mean, does the world not care? That's the feeling that I wrestle with every day in my interactions with everybody. Every one of us is responsible for the outcome of this war. Every one of us.
Okay, so, look, this guy seems not all well, which obviously the fact that he was apprehended with a weapon within firing range of the president is ample evidence that he's not all well. And so that begs a couple of questions. As Russell said, where does he get the wherewithal and the resources, and how is he able to coordinate these travels around the world without some help from the state? I think that's a very valid question. Now, the media is in a very difficult spot here, because if he was taken under the wing of certain government agencies, that's something they really don't want to report. But
Right.
if he wasn't, guess who's on the hook for this guy? Them. Because he was either influenced by the state or totally brainwashed by the media into this kind of zealotry. And so where does this story go from here? Because don't forget, it's not often that the suspect survives an incident like this. But in this case, he has. So what happens now? We're limited as to what we could say here in East Berlin, but is this an incident where the security guard falls asleep and X, Y, and Z happens from there? Like what? Like because because it's fucked either way, right? I mean, either this guy had help from the state, which is an embarrassment, or MSNBC brainwashed this guy. Like I said jokingly on the air the other night, who needs MK Ultra when you have Keith Olbermann? I mean, I said that half jokingly, but it's true. It's true. It's one or the other here, is it not?
Well, it is. This is why, and I said this in another segment the other night. This is my exception to all attempts at kind of centralization of power, no matter where it's coming from ideologically. I don't trust people enough. People are too stupid. They're sheep-like. If you remember when the Ukraine war first broke out, all of these people who all of a sudden the flag is in their profile and they're walking around with the pin. Humans are just very prone to whatever the thing is, particularly war. If you've seen a few wars break out that have that real propaganda heft behind them, most people go along with it. They really do. And they want to be seen. It's that tribalism. They want to be seen going along with it. Right. That's the whole point. That's why I don't trust people in groups. I don't trust collectivism for that reason, because it's so easy to just get people to go along with the group. There's a slavish quality that is in our genes, that people want to belong to the tribe because it's a survival thing, right? You need to belong to the tribe for food, right? For resources. Being exiled means death. So propagandists understand that. And they've really refined their techniques since the Mad Men days, since the Bernays days, to really just suck people into these narratives. And of course, when you're talking about going away from the deep state question, which I am not at all dismissing, I think it's very likely, frankly. But besides that, I mean, I think you probably got both here. I don't think it's either or. I think part of the reason they were able to use this guy is because he was propagandized this way. He was primed that way. Yeah, when you're dealing with hundreds of millions of people, and a lot of them are stupid enough to basically believe what this guy believes, you'll have a few of them who will take it to the next level. I not only have to show you how much I believe in this, I have to be the most dedicated to it. And I'm going to go there. And I'm going to recruit people to join me. And, I mean, you're going to get a few of those.
Well, that's what Max and Aaron were talking about, because I watched some of their live stream last night after we got off of the Post-Duopoly show, and they were saying that these kinds of wars, these kinds of efforts draw fanatics. They pull fanatics out of the woodwork. Right? Because you almost have to be radicalized in some way for this to make any sense. Right? Like, unless you are just like a shitlib NPC who just, you live your life and then you watch the news and the news says support Ukraine, so you support Ukraine. Okay, that's one type of person. That is the majority of people consume all news and politics like that.
And I will just interject once again, because I was traveling a lot around the country over the last couple of years. When you see that Ukraine flag shit, it's always an upscale neighborhood, man. When you see that outside the houses, when you see that on the sidewalks in chalk, always an upscale neighborhood. Always.
Right. And that's how most people consume news and politics in general. I walk through life not paying much attention. When I turn on the TV and they say support Ukraine, okay, that's my politics. But in rare examples where people really look into an issue and really go down the rabbit hole, well, who could be zealously pro-Ukraine at this point, except for people who are susceptible to this kind of brainwashing and radicalization? Because anyone who pays a modicum of attention to this would support peace talks. So, like, if you are an NPC who, like, passively consumes politics, you put the Ukraine flag on your door as a virtue signal, and then you don't think about it much. If you really think about this and you are still vehemently pro-Ukraine, well, then, you are a mark. You are the exact kind of person who could be recruited into this kind of thing, right? And that's why I hope I'm not mischaracterizing what they're saying. That's what I took from Max and Aaron last night, is they were saying that, the causes like these attract people like this.
I gotta say, very broadly, as I'm really looking at the whole landscape of propaganda, it's like we're all living in a David Cronenberg film where you exit one conspiracy and you just enter another.
Right. Yes.
It's just like an infinite number of doors leading into an infinite number of rooms where you don't actually have control over your perceptions.
Yes.
Please clap.